Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of His eye. Let's get to work. Shabbat Shalom. There's a saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as we use our time on this Shabbat based on the Shema, we are to love the Most High with all of our heart, soul, mind, and might. As that is lived in our practical everyday life, it also leads us to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, which tells us to study to show ourselves approved unto the Most High, workmen who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So we're going to take a few minutes to look at this biblical teaching about images. As I opened up, or that the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, is relevant to what we're looking at on this Shabbat. The words specifically that we're examining are words that have come from the directions of the Most High to the Most High's people. The best way to convey the words of the Most High have given to us is to convert those words into mental images. Now, I want you to think about the Shabbat and Shema within that context. In other words, when the scriptures tell us to do something, for instance, when the scriptures say, love the Most High with all your heart, soul, and might, we know that we love the Most High in that way by following the words of the Most High. The primary command is to love the Most High and then use the Shabbat to meditate on that. What we are actually meditating on, we're actually giving ourselves a mental image of what that looks like based on His words. So that's just a short introduction to give us some sense of how powerful images are. So with that in mind, we're going to look at several scriptures when it comes to the notion of images. The commandment that we're going to be focusing on, we're going to only look at 2 or 3 scriptures. But one of the scriptures is coming from this commandment in Deuteronomy chapter 20. This is the shortened version of it, but it says, don't make and worship images or idols. And we're going to look at that in regard to 2 images, one of which was instrumental in the founding of this nation. Let's start with the image on the left. So here is the title. Which one is biblically correct? Because what we have been told all of our lives is that this is a Christian nation ordained by God to do the things that are done. And it's in that image that these things happen. So we're going to examine that biblically, which is why the question is, which one of these images is biblically correct? The one on the left or the one on the right? Now, there are some biblical hints that we're going to examine in order to answer that question. The first one is in Exodus chapter 20, starting at verse 3. The children of Israel, the children of Yasharel, when they were at Mount Sinai, and Moses went up the mountain to get the words from on high that he would then give to his people. The first word that he got from the Most High to give to his people stated, you shall have no other gods before me. And the very next word that was the completion of that thought is in verse 4. You shall not make for yourself, and this translation says an idol, but in the King James Version, it actually uses the word image. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in the heavens above, or the earth below, or in the waters beneath the earth. And then verse 5 says, you shall not bow down to them or worship them. So the very beginning of the covenant and the commands between the Most High and his people told his people, don't make images of me, and don't bow down and worship those images. There's a reason why he said that first. It's because they came out of a culture that was full of man's images, that he made himself into a god. And one of the reasons why Israel had to come out of Egypt is because the gods of Egypt were all human beings. Pharaoh was a god. And that's why Moses was told, when he was dealing with Pharaoh, I'm going to make you a god to Pharaoh, because Pharaoh understood that concept. But what the Most High was telling his people is that way of thinking, that way of operating is not what I have for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you again what was repeated in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah your creator is one, and you shall love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, and might. And then when that is combined with the command, actually it's the fourth commandment from Exodus chapter 20 that we didn't put up here, which says, remember the Shabbat. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Shabbat unto the Lord, is a day of rest unto the Lord, is a day that is set aside unto the Lord. And on that day you shall do no work. Why? Because he wanted us to focus on our relationship with him. In other words, he wanted us to take those words and formulate an image between ourselves, our souls, and the Most High. And so it's a very personal dynamic that he wants his people to have with him. And that's where we'll bring in the second scripture that's on the screen here. Yahweh is spirit, and his worshipers must worship him in spirit and in truth, which means that you cannot worship an image. The Most High is not an image. So that's why he doesn't want us to create images and then bow down and worship them. This word from the Most High has not been given to the Most High's people. And this word certainly is not what drove the people who took this land to be able to empower them to take the land, because they again took the land in the image on the left and said God told us to do it. So who is God? God is the people who created the image on the left. The image on the right is the negative response to the image on the left. I'm going to say that again. The image on the right is the negative response to the image on the left, which is a false image. It is a negative reaction to that false image. So what those who want the image on the right to do is to substitute the image on the left. So which one of those is biblically correct? Neither. The Most High does not want his people doing that at all. We're not supposed to carve out images. We're not supposed to make images and say that's God, or say that's Jesus, or say that's Yeshua. And that's why the Apostle Paul said, we no longer know Yeshua after the flesh. Once Yeshua left this form, or temporarily, because he's coming back. So the challenge that those who want the image on the right to be the correct depiction of the image on the left is that the Most High said, don't do that, period. Because when we do that, we make gods in our own images. That has always been man's problem. And that's why the Most High in John 4:24 said, God is a spirit. So you can't make an image of a spirit. The spirit is that which brings life and purpose to you. You can't get that from a man-created image. However, you can conquer in those images. It's just that you're not conquering in the will of the Most High. You're not conquering with the blessing of the Most High. So might does not make right. What makes right is following the laws of the Most High. That's what makes us right. And that involves doing the laws of the Most High. So that's what the Most High has for us as his children on this Shabbat. Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom.